So, welcome. We are now recording. Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the monthly, a mentoring moment at Emma's table. My name is Cynthia Mitchell, and today we are going to be talking about Danielle's quote in our calendar. I'm trying to find a copy of the calendar. The Me Time motivational calendar that we pulled together. Danielle, I have it everywhere except the right way, I think. But there's a copy of our calendar that we produced at early in the year, and we have 6 phenomenal young ladies who have given us quotes for each month. And the first month we talked with Portia. Well, Portia didn't join us, but we discussed her quote, "Faith over fear." And then last month was Kiana. We talked about your greatest wealth is health. And just to be honest, we're a little bit late. We're running late. Our monthly is late. Heavens to Betsy. But I thought about that. When you're late, something's gonna get birthed out of that, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Something's coming. But so this month, for the month of March, we are talking about Danielle's quote, calling all to blossom, calling all to God's glory. And we just want to come on monthly and encourage women, but encourage everyone, encourage, anyone who wants to be a part of the conversation. But it's all about motivation, encouragement, and women in particular. Again, there are things that we experience as women that we can just all relate to each other. And so we just kind of set this space aside so that we can just have some time to share. I'm going to say this before I forget. When you have time, please visit our website, www.starcommunity.online. And I think we have a Facebook page as well. And all of the women that share quotes and everything, you will get to see them and their links to their businesses or their hobbies, the things that they do. So you can learn more about these phenomenal women that we are celebrating for this year of 2021. Now, having said all that, let's meet Danielle. She is the brains and the beauty. Oh, maybe I should back up first because I should say, hello, Mashonda. We're recording. Hi, sweetie.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello, Danielle.
Hi, Mashonda. How you doing?
Beautiful, wonderful. Driving, but I wouldn't miss this for the world. I'm here.
I thank you so much for joining us. I just told Danielle I'm running late on this monthly, but usually when we run late with those, something's gonna get birthed. So we're just gonna keep pressing, okay? So, but thank you for joining us. And Danielle. And please, I want everyone to meet Danielle again. She is the beauty and the brains behind our quote for this month. So Danielle, I want you to first of all, if you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and anything you want us to know, and then we're going to talk about blossoming.
Okay, well, hello everyone. Like Miss Cynthia said, my name is Danielle. You'll see President May at the bottom, but Danielle Resper, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day, but Danielle Resper is my name. And so I am the founder, the one who was given the pleasure and the honor to birth the ministry. Initially, it was my dance ministry called Blossoms of His Glory. So everything just turned into blossoms. Everything was flowers everywhere, blooming everywhere. So Blossoms of His Glory ministry, that's where the quote came from, calling all to blossom and calling all to God's glory, which we'll talk about in a moment. I am just recently licensed as a minister. I'm an author. I just love creating and writing and just doing all types of great things. And basically everything that you see me do is a testament to just my journey. And that's another thing that I hope we can get into, is just being ourselves and allowing God to just naturally flow through us and all the little nuances and things that He put in our personalities, and letting that be what we present to the world as our own personal ministry and glorifying God. So I am a native of Miami, Florida. What else? I live now in Augusta, Georgia. Been here for about 5 or 6 years. I don't know. I forgot. But around 2015, 2016, that's when I made it up here to Augusta. And yes, that's about it. I'm a dancer, writer, creator, all of that. And I'm excited to be here.
Well, yay, my Shonda, you're with us. I know you're driving, but do you want to say hello? And then we're gonna come back around and start talking about blossoming.
Hello, and let's talk about blossoming. I am Shonda Mathis, also a licensed minister.
We lost you, sweetie. Okay. My Shonda, we lost you, dear. When you okay.
Adult dance ministry.
Turn left on Bermuda Circle.
You might have to start over, my Shonda. We lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay, I was just really quickly just saying hi and hello to everyone. I am Minister Shonda Mathis out of Tabernacle Baptist Church here in Augusta, Georgia. Reverend Dr. Charles E. Goodman Jr. is my pastor. I am a licensed minister in the church and also the servant leader to the Tribe of Judah Dance Ministry. I am proud to be a part of this effort to support trauma awareness. I have my own trauma awareness that I will always champion for, and that's awareness against childhood sexual abuse, this being Childhood Abuse Prevention Month. Of course, that's something I'll be talking about on my own personal page, but I cannot wait to hear all that Danielle has to share with us today. And I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, dear. So Danielle, because actually I was looking for something and I don't see it. And you would think with all this stuff I have everywhere that I could put my hands on what I'm looking for. But we're talking about flowering, the word flowering, and I remember in scripture, and I can't find it, where it talks about the woman, even in her flowering, it's really all about our essence, the very core of who, and I'll say it this way, and what we are. I'll say it like that. So it's interesting to me, especially when I'm in the company of you younger women that are blossoming and flowering and producing and doing. It is such an encouragement. Because some of you, I see you doing things now and handling things now much better than I did at your age. So, Danielle, I don't know if you can go back a little bit and share with us maybe a little bit more of the deeper thought behind when you named your dance ministry and the blossoms, kind of what did that come out of?
Well, this is one of the things, there's some things, because as I said, I'm developing, I always talk about I know I'm not a finished work, right? So this name is actually something that I can't really take full credit for. It was literally something that I know that God gave me. It was as if he gave me the name and he saw, of course he knows my future. And it was kind of like a stamp that he put on me to basically give me a footpath of where my ministry and where my life was going and what my purpose would be based in. And so, like I said, in the beginning, it started off as I was part of a dance ministry called Carrier of His Glory. We were glory carriers based in Miami, Florida, and underneath Fashion at Finley. And that was part of it. So I knew that at the beginning, all I knew was I was going to dance. I didn't like talking in front of people. I didn't like all the stuff I'm doing now. I didn't like. everything I'm doing now I didn't like, right? So I was like, well, I want to serve God. I remember in the very beginning when I first got saved, I was one of those people, how, you know, how people put their pinky toe in, and he had some people who like, I'm the one who went up on the cliff and just dived in, like got baptized and then boom, went into ministry. Like, it was like, I said, even before I got baptized, that I remember talking to my husband at the time. I believe he was my boyfriend at the time. And I was like, because he was one who started bringing me to church. I'm like, when I do this, and this is, again, I can't take credit for this. I just, like, some things I'm like, that was not me. And I said, when I get baptized, I want to do this for real. I got baptized and I did it for real. And I never looked back. But of course, along that phase, I went through some cycles of blossoming. And I believe that's where God, he can, and I believe we all can do that. We all do that. So for me, like I said, the title, that name came from God. It started with the dance ministry. Then when I moved up here to Georgia, it was kind of like fertilizer. Like everything just started. And I got under, you know, my pastors are Apostle Antonio Williams and Prophetess Angel Williams at Temple of Faith Ministries at 2605 Deansbridge Road, Augusta, Georgia. When I got into that ministry, and I believe that's why I came back, that's why I'm up here in Augusta. There's no doubt that is a definite leg of my journey. It was like they started having me to pray. I had been praying behind the scenes. And it's like, now you're the lead intercessor. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, you mean I got to pray in front of people on a mic? Like, so this is a part of, and then I realized, like, well, God, you always had me to pray. So now we went from dance ministry. Now I'm thrust into praying. Then God said he had me write a book. So now you got me doing all the stuff I've been doing behind the scenes, and he's pushing it. All the things that were happening beneath the soil, he's pushing it up and he's causing it to blossom. So now I'm dancing. I'm currently doing this now. I'm dancing, praying in front of, this is all in front of people now. Cause all the stuff I used to do behind closed doors. Dancing, praying, wrote the book. So now I've had to get up and speak. I'm here on live. I'm like, oh, back in the day, I was like, oh my goodness, no, don't look at me. Don't look at me. So all of these things, and I believe that's when I first got that name, it was birthed from me learning and that seed being planted in carrier of his glory, his glory. And I said, well, I'm a blossom of that. I'm growing from that first thing that I did, that first leap of faith that I took. And all of this is blossoming from that first leap of faith. So all of this was just growing from that first move of obedience that I did. That first time I prayed for somebody, that first time I danced in front of somebody, that first time I wrote something and shared it, that first time I came up to somebody and encouraged them in the name of the Lord. All this stuff is blossoming from that. And I just went from phase to phase. And that's where it came from. I think when I first moved to Georgia, that term was coined, calling all to blossom, calling all to God's glory.
We support trauma awareness, and everyone attached to this platform has our individual trauma that we are masters of, if you will, because truly with even us just getting up talking, it does not master us. And it's interesting because sometimes I believe, even if you get a word of prophecy or you have a vision or even an inkling, a thought about your future or your life or what it's going to be like and what we're going to do, it's not going to be healthy and as beautiful as it can be if there ain't no fertilizer in there somewhere. So it's a part of the process. So, and I was listening to you, and I wrote, and I was like, okay, everything you just said says blossoming is just a natural process. You just, even with the whatever, you continue to process. Yeah, and that's what you've done.
Glory to God.
But
and it's good. I'm glad you brought back up trauma because, I wrote a book called Anew. It's Prayers and Practices to help break free of psychological challenges. And in that book, I talk about how I was in a constant day-to-day lifestyle of trauma. So I was doing everything I'm doing now. Like we talked about earlier, you know, how busy we can get and how God downloads these ideas and all. God was downloading the same things in me, you know, but I was in that lifestyle. So it was like I was doing everything, but I was dealing with that. So I was emotionally drained, mentally drained, tired, just because I was in an abusive, I was not in a healthy lifestyle. I was emotionally and mentally abusive. So, you know, the same things I'm trying to do now, I was doing them, but I was exhausted. And then so when it came time for me to speak, and like all the things that I wanted to do or that I felt led to do, it was like I was frustrated in it because I was so tired. And like literally, like now I'm doing more than I did before. But I'm like, I'm good. Like I'll have to force myself to go to sleep. And then like I'm getting up and I'm like, I never would have thought I came to this day. And the only thing that I can trace it to was the trauma. And so that's why it's so important. And I write it in my book. You know, I'm a prayer warrior. I believe in, you know, the miracles of God. I believe in his word. I believe in all of that. But I also know that in his word, there are things that have to happen, that have to shift in order for us to have that breakthrough that we need, the full breakthrough. And so I believe that my breakthrough began, and like it was already in the workings. You know, we know all things work together for our good, who are called according to his purpose. But there's still some things that needed to happen in order for me to fully blossom. So now the weeds had to come up. You know, you had to pluck up the weeds. You had to get rid of all the insects, all the what do you call it? The cankers and the things that try to keep you from growing and blossoming beautifully. All of those things had to be removed. And I had to be aware that they were there so that I would be able to fully blossom and still be able to blossom. I'm still blossoming, but now I'm able to, you know, kind of like spread out, stretch out a little bit, take my time, not be worried about things keeping me down. So I had to get back to that.
But you know, so you just said something that really it touched on, because as we were talking, I started thinking, wait a minute, because I was saying when I cut grass, it just starts rolling, revelation, nuggets, pieces. And it's I have to run in the house sometimes, you know, and write it down. But, and then we were talking about that, but you know what I just thought about? I wrote something in the front of my first book, and we're going to get you to give your website and everything before we get done, because we want people to be able to, you know, get access to your book. But I had written something in the very first part of my first book, and it says, Lord, I find that when I seek your face for direction during troubled and turbulent times, you draw close to me, planting your gifts for ministry and nuggets of creativity. And I heard the voice of the Most High say, I planted the gifts and nuggets before you were born. I ordained trouble and turbulence to shift hidden treasures to the surface. Then I respond, stir up the gifts, Lord. And the Most High says, hold on, my child. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Ooh.
I just thought, when we were, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If we didn't have those bumpy times, we'd just be as happy, you know, just as content with, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so when we look at trauma and blossoming, how in the world can you say trauma and blossom in the same breath, you know? Well, trauma,
it's necessary.
If we process it properly. Okay, Mama, I'm sorry, you driving, you want to chime in? We just don't, you good?
Yeah. It's funny when you were talking about cutting the grass. I remember I was just telling a friend of mine, it's just something funny. Lately, this has happened before, but it seems like lately is when I get in the shower. And I'm like, really, Lord, you really gonna do this? And I'm like, imagine being in the shower and like sometimes my phone is in the other room. So I'm like mid shower, like I gotta get out. Like I'm in here trying to like play everything back in my mind that's being downloaded. I'm like, no, I have to get out. And I'll literally get out. And this happened like a few times in the past few weeks. And it is so funny. Like, I don't know what is he trying to test to make sure that he could trust me. I don't know what it is, but it's funny, but it's like, I'm writing this down because this is too good to not. But it's like the more that I do, the more that he gives. It's
Yep.
like, at my church, we say Amos 9:13, things are going to be happening so fast your head will swim. One thing fast on the heels of the other, you won't be able to keep up. Everywhere you look, like blessings like wine pouring off the mountains and hills. I'll make everything right again for my people. And when and it's like, literally, that's what I believe is happening, because a lot of us look for that financially, but I believe, and I'm so grateful that he gives it to me in energy, the same energy that I thought that I didn't have, I needed to have. I mean, of course, I believe in 8 hours of sleep every night, but I was idolizing 8 hours of sleep every night, every night, like just being strict, because I was so, like, I didn't understand why I was so tired. And so, like, I was like, oh, well, I have to make sure I get sleep, which helped, but that wasn't the only problem, and just like, the ideas, and like, I'll ask God for an idea and he'll give me 10. And it's like, well, I gotta write, like, I have a plan, like, literally he has like stuff that I could just keep releasing for the rest of the year. And it's like, that's what he's doing for me. So I'm grateful, to even have a mindset. And, my book, the main scripture is Romans 12:2, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I'm so glad that I was free enough, and God opened me enough to not have my mindset stuck on money. And just see the blessing of being able to have ideas and energy. Like, I love the little things, not even the little things that the world sees as little. I don't discount it. Just like the other day, for example, like, and I believe, like, stuff like this always happens to me. I don't know if you saw my post on Facebook. I love Nollywood movies, the Nigerian movies. That's like, I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, I'm on Netflix and I'm looking at all because I know God's getting me ready. I got to get ready to know how I'm going to talk and dress and eat when I go to Africa, because I know I'm going to Africa. So I watched all the good ones. I'm like, I don't have nothing else to watch on TV. So I went on Facebook, like, y'all, we need to write Netflix and we need to tell them to put some more Nollywood movies on. And this is a little thing. And the next day, won't you know, there was a new movie released on Netflix, Nollywood movie. It was called God Calling. So it was not just any Nollywood movie. It was a Christian Nollywood movie with my favorite. Like, I was like, God, I was like, oh God, I see what you did there. I like that. 24 hours. It was not a movie that had been on there. I look at stuff like that because it happens. You know how things happen. And like, God, I don't want to seem like I'm crazy or like fantasizing. You know how people could be fanatical. I'm like, no, you do this all the time, so I can't discount it. It wasn't like one. This happens to me like a daily basis, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. I'm like, come on. Like, so that's the kind of stuff that I get excited about. And I'm like, I do, of course, everybody loves, to have money and all of that, but it's those, to me, that makes it a relationship. That's like, God, I know you hear me. I know that you're concerned about every detail of my life. I know that, and that's what helps me to just draw closer to him, because he's not, how people, they'll be like, oh no, that didn't happen, or oh, ain't nobody worried about. No, God's worried about every detail of my life. And I will tell him when he does, like, when little things are provided, my wants and desires. So that's just a movie, but it's just little things like that that lets me know that I don't have to worry about the big things. Because if somebody's so worried about the little smallest details of your life, they got the big stuff handled. Right. So it's like it stuff like that increases my faith to let me know not to worry about my needs, because he's giving me my wants.
Right.
So
right. But I feel like it's those kind of things that help build. I say God got a repertoire with me. He got a portfolio. I know what he's done, but it helps build your faith.
Yeah.
I've walked in, and I don't know if I've told the story before on the monthly, but years ago, the children were young, and I had a Ford Explorer, and my tires, they were gone. They were shot. And I knew one was like really, really bad. And I went in to try and, see if I could either just get it fixed, patch, or just that one.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy told me, ma'am, no, ma'am, we can't fix it. And he said, really? He said, you need 4 times. And I said, well, I cannot afford it. And the other guy came from behind the counter. I guess he was the manager or whatever, because he knew what was going on. Do y'all remember that big tire recall? Y'all might be a little bit young. Some years ago, but does anybody, you remember that? It was a huge tire recall. And what was so funny was it had not been released publicly. Tire stores had gotten the email that, so they could be prepping for the swap out and everything, but it was not public. And I left there with 5 brand new tires. So, I had another situation where I was like, huh? And that thing came to my mind. I was like, wait a minute. The Most High said, if I got to recall every tire they got to get you one, that's we gonna recall. So that's how I look at it. That was huge for me. And I replayed that. I rehearsed that. I rehearsed the things that he's done for me. When I feel like I'm facing a wall or what have you, and I go, okay, wait a minute. My God gonna recall all y'all tires to get me one. So yeah, I think it's good. And that's one thing to I guess we can kind of encourage some people, that might see this video, and at the time they see it, they may not feel like they're blossoming. They may not feel like a flower. They may feel like that Bette Midler song called The Rose, where she's and I know the last verse of the song says, just remember in the winter, far beneath the bitter snow, lies the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose. So if y'all haven't heard that, I love that song. I just love it. And it's just so encouraging. And that's even what this is about, blossoming, even when you got dirt and fertilizer and stuff and trauma piled on top of you. And, and I'm learning a little bit about growing and gardening and farming. And I was looking at a process for some things, and they tell you to put another tray with a little weight on top of your greens, because as they begin to develop and push up the microgreens, it helps strengthen their stems.
Okay.
And you do that, you don't leave it, but but as they're beginning to try and push up. So, that's kind of like the same thing with us. How are we going to grow into maturity in him, and to maturity in Christ, maturity, in the Mashiach, if we don't, have to push back sometime against some resistance, So,
right.
Mashonda, you're going to have to leave us. We want you to say something before you do. Oh, no? Okay.
No, I'm not leaving, but I am joining another group.
Okay.
I will be with you. I'm just getting ready to get out of the car, but I'm staying on.
Okay, we don't want, because we want to hear some wisdom from you out of block.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on. I just gotta get out the car.
Okay. So, I can't do 2 things at one time. So now I got to get my track back on the track, my train back on the track. First, before I forget, Danielle, will you share your website and how people can get your book?
Okay, so what I was not thinking of, I have a URL, but I don't have like how my business page, I have it's .com. So my new page, the best way to get to it, and maybe since this is going on Facebook, I could just put the link in the comments below, but
okay.
it's a what do you call it? The Square store. So it's a kind of a long, lengthy URL, okay. But I am on Facebook. It's just and you'll see like you'll see the orange and black logo. on Facebook, and there's a link to the website on my Facebook page. And then I also give you the link to where you could just put it on the YouTube in the info maybe.
Okay.
So that they can just use that link, because I should have wrote it down, but it's like one of those long square app. But what I am going to do when I talked about, now that I'm kind of realizing where God has taken me, I will be eventually merging both Blossoms and Anew together. So there will be a tab on my blossomshealing.com website that will take you to Anew. So I can just give that website for now. It's www.blossomshealing.com.
Okay, so there. So we can, because there may be something else too, because we haven't even talked about your holistic ministry, with the herbs, and you try to keep me healthy and slim, and I won't do right. But so no reflection on you. I just won't do right. How do you believe, or how do you feel? What has been your experience with using like natural herbs and the teas and that type thing, even just in like your overall sense of well-being? How does that, how do you feel that attributes to your overall well-being, mentally, physically?
Well, now, okay, so I got licensed or certified through Indigenous Remedies, right?
Okay.
And they have this thing, their students, once they join, are called herb nerds.
Okay.
So that's what I am.
Okay.
So I was making just give you an example to give you my experience with herbs, because I appreciate, like you see, I'm like getting all warm and fuzzy inside. Like, I just appreciate everything about a plant now. And when I went to Belize, if you follow me, I love, like, that's my home. I'm moving there one day. I'm speaking that into existence. That's my home. I got my land and my house is already claimed. Like, that I will be living in Belize soon. But I went there and I met an herbalist, and then like every person that I met, because I be making people my mentor. Like, I'm like, you're my mentor. You don't know it, but you are. So I asked him, I said, so what would you suggest for me to do as a new herbalist? And he was like, you have to get familiar with the land. Because he was a bush guy. He used to be like, he's like, I can hear your heartbeat. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're for real. Like, he was raised in the bush. That was like, he didn't have like how I was in a classroom in my house, learning on the internet. He was out there in the woods with his teacher in the mountains. So he's a real deal. So he was like, you have to get familiar with the land. So that's why as soon as I came back from Belize, I went and started my garden. And then after that, it was just like, so now the whole process, when I first started in 2018, 2017, it was kind of just like, I appreciated the benefits of the herbs. I was doing more so powders and my orange juice, not so much the tea. Then I graduated to doing the tea and everything. So now, like, when I drink, especially if I'm drinking herbs from my garden, you can't tell me nothing. Like, cause like I done plucked, first of all, it's a herb called bee balm. I love it. Smells so good. It tastes just like it smells. And let's say if I just talk about that and my other favorite herb, hibiscus, and I put those together. So you see how I'm talking about it? So before I even drink it, it's like this whole process of something that I grew. I enjoyed the smell when it was fresh, when I was cutting it, rinsing it, letting it dry. Cause just like when you're growing something in the garden, food, it's like a different thing. When I grow my kale in my garden and I cook it, you can't tell me anything. Like, before I even eat it, I'm starting to feel good. So I just feel like now that I'm blossoming in the area of just what I'm putting in my body, I'm realizing that the more that I'm invested into something, the more that it will benefit me. Because now that I've grown my herbs, or that I've seen and I know the cycle of that herb or that food, when I eat it, it's more of an emotional and a spiritual experience for me, because I get it, I understand. So for me, when I'm using herbs, when I'm drinking the tea, and I'm like, it's something that I appreciate, because I know what it's doing. That's another thing. Know what you're putting in your body. Like, I'm a nerd all the way around. When I'm eating, if I'm eating an apple, I could have researched this 10,000 times. I'm gonna go to Google as I'm eating my apple, and I'm like, right now I'm getting fiber, I'm getting some vitamin C. Like
Uh-huh.
that's basically sums up like my experience with herbs and food.
Uh-huh.
But I was saying when I was making somebody's order yesterday, and it had hibiscus, it had red raspberry. It was for like women's support, and I in ashwagandha, and I was looking at the package after I mixed everything, and I was like, oh, this is pretty. Like it was like the deep greens and the reds. And
Mhm.
like, I never really get a chance to share this with people. So excuse me if I'm like, just so, but that's my experience like with herbs. And, you know, I remember when I first started, my school, you know, they're not believers. And where I got trained, they don't believe. So I was in a classroom, and like, I remember, I don't know if he's going to see this, but oh well, Dr. Turtle, he was talking, and I love plants, but the way he was talking, he was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, it sounds like he's worshiping these plants. And in the next beat, he was like, if you would say I had a God, I would say that plants are my God. I said, see, I knew it like in my head. So I'm not that far gone. I know who my creator is, and I know who created the plants. I even wrote my final paper on that. It's just like, not to spite them, but like, this is my point of view. God created the earth. It was more creative than that. But basically, you know, plants, for somebody to worship them, that lets you know that there's something of value in them, even though it's kind of skewed the way that they see it. But that's my view. I value that aspect of creation and why it was created, and being able to discover it. And then once I discover it, being able to use it and see how powerful and beneficial it is. So my experience with herbs is just all of it. Everything I said, it's not simple. It's so many different avenues you can go through. It's a beautiful experience. It's healing. It's fun. It's educational. It's enlightening. So that's my experience when I drink a cup of tea and eat.
See, so we're talking about blossoming and blooming, and the thing is, I've always said this, and I think I'm seeing it now more than ever. I'm like a late bloomer. Okay, I think that I have really just recently figured out what I really want to be when I grow up.
Right.
And as a farmer, I finally, this was maybe about a year ago. And it's too much, but I just, oh my goodness, I don't want to be a farmer. And now I really look a lot closer at our relationship with the soil. And even when we go to scriptures, and looking at sowing, reaping, harvest, and there's a vineyard, and we're talking, parables about the vineyard, all of this, it really does make me feel closer to our creator, the Most High God. We know who it is. It's not
Yes.
saying, but it does, and it makes me feel closer. But so a late bloomer and developing this relationship with the soil. Look what my hands, I watered it, a co-creator, even, if you will, because that's what we are too in so many aspects, but a co-creator with the Most High. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I take pride. I haven't done a whole lot yet, but it's coming. But yeah, it is. It's a sense of pride and connection. Yeah, and healing. So again, when we go back to trauma, how do we look at that growing experience and that relationship with the soil and what we're producing, to kind of, just kind of bring us down and in. Mm-hmm.
This, I just got the book of Enoch. And so I'm like one of those, I have to actually, when we finish this, I'm going to start, pick it back up. So I'm at the part where it's talking about how the fallen angel started teaching man.
Yes, ma'am.
About all the tricks of the trade, right? So I'm just like, okay, all right, wait a minute. Because it's like, okay, so you mean to tell me that, the angels knew all these things, right? And they taught mankind how to do all this stuff that was already in existence. And it's a two-part thing that I was thinking about, because I asked, why out of all the time points why was that the time where, you know, the Bible was written? And I believe that everything, the skyscrapers, the airplanes, all this stuff was already gonna come. So it was kind of like, it was better to do it, I guess, you know, I'm still learning about that back then, about having an appointed time, the best time for everything. God knows the best time. And I believe that was a whole nother conversation we had. But going back to just all of the things that the angels taught, that they weren't basically, from my understanding, was not supposed to reveal to us at that time.
Right.
That does not mean that it was wrong.
Yeah.
It just means that at that time we weren't supposed to know it. And then the way that they taught it was out. So it's like all of this stuff I'm going back to rediscover. So when you talked about getting connection with the soil and like the stones, and just like with the plants, I don't worship plants. I don't worship stones. I don't worship any of that. Like even to like all of those things that those, you know, those things like sage and all this other stuff. Like, first of all, I don't do none of that. I just want to know, like, I'm big on the science behind it, because I believe that science is just an explanation for what God had already ordained or what God had already established. So when we're talking about soil and you hear about grounding, and when you go out and put your feet in the earth and what it does to your body, like physically, there's evidence that it does these things. There's evidence that if you put stones in your garden, that if you do like what do you call a placebo, and you take the garden that had the crystal in it and the garden that didn't, there's a big difference. So it's like, okay, that's science. That's science. So God, what does that mean? And it made me think about Enoch and how all of these things are true. They're in existence. And so it makes me like, that's another part of my blossoming. That's another part of my journey, is like, and I understand now that I had to have that foundation. Like, ain't nobody gonna tell me nothing about Jesus. You ain't gonna tell me, you're not gonna pull me away from Jesus. Now, it might be some things like, God, what is this? Like, hold up. Okay, I don't like, you know, I'll ask, but my foundation is solid. So now that I can go discover and not be pulled away. And now I understand that. And I think, I don't know, I just wanted to share that because I feel like a lot of people, you know, when you see like, you know, people with different things. I remember when I first started doing herbs up here, and I work in Aiken, and people were calling me witches and all this other stuff, but they didn't even know who I was. They just saw me doing something that, you know, in our culture has been perverted or used for other things. But I'm like, God created this. God created sage. God created stones. God created all these herbs. But why did he create them? Not for me to burn and to set the mood in the room. No, that's not what it's for, but it's for something. So it's like, for me, it's like, it's so important that we kind of like, I want to challenge everything. Now, if God tell me, I know, sis, don't do that, I'm like, okay, I ain't gonna do it. But I'm gonna ask, and I'm going to explore, because I don't want to be stuck. And that's a part of you not blossoming. I don't want to be stuck in a mindset or a belief that's based off of fear or ignorance. I want to base whatever I do. I want to make sure I did it. I tried it. God knew my heart. He told me I was wrong, and I'm gonna go sit down.
You know, sis, I confirm and echo, and I affirm, you know, what you just said. It was a few years back. It was a situation, and it was something going on in a situation, and I kept researching and digging and looking, and I had to drive to I went to North Carolina, me and a friend of mine, and I went to the courthouse. I had to go find some records for what this was related to, because it was something just wasn't making sense. And I got to a point and received some revelation. And but then I went back into the digging and the looking, and I know the voice of the Most High told me, stop. Before you find yourself lost in that darkness, stop.
Yeah.
But I knew I had gotten to a point, like I said, where there was some resolution, but the efficiency in me was going to stay there, right? But I heard that clear stop. So yes, I know that when we have given ourselves to him, he sets that hedge, and we can ask him questions. You know, we can sit and reason, and he will share with us and will deposit as much as we ask and want to know, and as much as he sees fit. And then we have to trust him when he says stop. Yeah. So yes, ma'am. I believe I'm with you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mashonda, now I'm gonna tell you, it's about to be that time. Well, we're gonna go into the pot. Now, usually what we do before we hang up on the monthly, I have this pot that honestly, oh my goodness, I don't remember what year it was, but I had done something called Women of War. It was a weekend women's conference. And this is when I was actually going to New Covenant with Bishop Jim Dutton at New Covenant. And we did Women of War weekend. It was powerful. A part of it was called Soup for the Soul Sisters. And I had put these pots in some different salons, some people that I knew, and I was doing a little something on the radio. So we were instructing people, go by the salons, and I had notepads sitting beside them. People wrote their comments, questions, thoughts. And again, I was on the radio, so sometime it will be, related to, one of the topics. They threw them, and the rule was you had to ball it up and throw it in the pot. So the day before the women's conference, I went to all my soup locations, picked up the pots. And then when we got over there that Saturday, I poured them all into one pot. I left my wooden spoon, and I had a big wooden spoon, and we stirred all of them up. And we just start pulling questions and things from the pot, and we just began dealing with it. I've done that little series a couple times. Well, to be honest, usually when we do it, we only get to about 2 or 3 before stuff just really gets unleashed, if you will. Y'all know how we do, okay?
Yes.
So I had a lot of them left. And so what I try to do on the monthly every time, we just pull a couple and kind of just deal with it. Mashonda, you want to say something before we go in the pot?
Let's do it. If I were to say anything, I would echo what you said, reaffirming Danielle's position on just going to the Father, and finding out truthfully if a thing is what people say it is, and if we are in error in our understanding of a thing. And what I actually heard in relationship to Danielle's journey is, isn't that what the flower does? Isn't that what the thing does? It actually talks to God. I'm feeling this as I'm sitting here underneath the sun. It wakes up every morning and asks it a question. It's seeking the Son's approval. It wants to know, what do you want me to do? Am I right? Am I glorious? Do I make you happy today, God? Mm-hmm. So many times I feel in life, people don't want you to be a flower that speaks to the sun.
That's good.
But that is not how the flower was created. The flower was created to rise up and speak to the sun. You will tell you when you are right.
Wow.
God will tell you. God will lead you. God will open you. And people are afraid for you to be open. People are afraid for you to know sage in both senses. Now I'm going to upset somebody. They're going to be afraid for you to know that there is a sense and a place where sage is used this way, and a sense and a place where sage is used in another way. People are afraid for you to know that yoga is used in one way and can be used in another way. They don't want you to open, they want to confine. When God wants you to open and blossom and become who He has designed for you to be, because part of you becoming is going through the motion.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to open. They want you to be. And God wants you to open. That's what I heard. Yeah.
You broke up some, sweetie.
That's just what I heard as you all were talking about that. And I just wanted to encourage you. Yes, sis. Blossom and grow and open. You never know what's going to happen with your flower. You know, some petals fall off. Nothing wrong with that. I love it. Let's do this pot.
Thank you.
But I hope, because sometimes I'm up at night, and I told you, Danielle, I'm usually up at 4 doing something. And, and I put these on YouTube as well. We have a Star Community channel on YouTube, I think. Because again, I'm up at 4 o'clock and I'm just doing stuff, and trying to, hook things up. My prayer is that, if there is a woman or a man or whoever, but, again, particularly women, because that's who we're talking to, if they're up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and something's weighing on them and they happen across, the Star Community channel and these videos, I want them to be encouraged and go, wow, because here we are sitting, in front of these little cameras. And I told you I've been outside cutting the grass, it's the shower, kind of comb my hair. You might not can really tell it since I wear it like that, but they could be looking, going, okay, well, they look like they pretty much got things in order. But listen, to our hearts. And we didn't really share like individual stories. And at some point, maybe we will, maybe we won't, I don't know. But if you go to our to the site, and as I said, I know all of the ladies that contributed to the calendars, I have them on there, and a link from the Star Community website where they can link to you all. So I'm going to go back and check your link, Danielle, because I might have sent it to your Facebook page or something, but I'll go back and look. But I've tried to put all the links so that people can get to you all. Because we just want to share it, and again, and be an encouragement, because we had some dirt and fertilizer and all kind of things, we've been, subject to all that, but we're here and we're blossoming, and I do want to thank you for sharing your heart and for sharing your quote with us and sharing yourself. So however far these videos get, and then they're sharing other people, and we have a connection back to you. I got to do this again because we're going to go in the soup pot now. We're going to pull out a question. I hope it's, let's see, I went to the bottom, and let's see what we pull out with it. We're just going to see if we have any. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I would pull one that has 3 on here. And these go way back. I don't even know who wrote what. There's no name, there's nothing. And normally I pull 2, but since there are 3 questions on here, I'm just gonna pull this one and we're gonna wrap it up. So the first question says, if you're interested in a church member romantically, how do you approach him without being offensive? I don't make this up.
Minister Mashonda, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Interested in a young man romantically.
A church member. If you're interested in a church member romantically, how do you approach him without being offensive?
I might not be the right one to ask about this because I just believe in being honest. And before we get to the romance, let's find out if we even like each other. Can we just be people? Let's do that part. Let's just start there. I'm interested in him romantically. Usually that has preceded any in-depth one-on-one interaction. So let's just be in a space where I can get to know you and you can get to know me.
Well, and maybe because y'all know I love playing with technology and getting on here and talking and recording some of these conversations, whatever. Maybe sometimes we can have a conversation about romance, relationships, but it's going to have to be prefaced or at least tied to a purpose. And because, at the ripe old age of 57, that I am, and I've been married, I'll tell you, it's interesting. My marriage, I was young, love, what have you. And I go into it, some in my book where I talk about, even after it didn't work for us, I never hated him because I said, you know what? He didn't know what he was getting because I didn't even know who I was, okay, at the time. Had not blossomed and developed in some things. My last marriage, I was much older. This was just 5-6 years ago. I don't know, however long. So it's, I was much older. And a friend of mine said to me, she said, well, Cynthia, she says, perhaps your first go around, the problem was you didn't know who you were. She said, but this go round, I am convinced the problem is you do. So again, and this is from a 57-year-old, not a 27-year-old, who understands, or I think, or has better placed romance in life. Because when we first have discover our identity, who we are, whose we are, the gifts, the talents, and we understand that we are sent here, we are dispatched to this place called Earth to leave some deposits. I think when we get some other things straight first, that romance piece. Now, you said something earlier, Danielle, I believe. I have come to understand the Most High God is concerned about every aspect of my life. He wants me to be happy. I believe that for me to have a full life, and enjoy everything that he put in this earth that is within his, parameters for me to enjoy. And that includes a full relationship if I so desire. So I'm not saying romance is not important. But it's kind of like Mashunda said too. Let's even find out if we like each other. I mean, what's really going on? So how do I know if I've just seen you in church? How do I even know that I'm really interested in you romantically? Because the cat butter might be thick in your eyes early in the morning, and that might really be a problem. I see you in church. You done took a bath and got your little suit on and sitting up in here. I don't know how thick that cat butter is early in the morning. How we already got down? Okay. I'm just saying, too much too soon.
Say it more eloquently. What I'm saying in that, and you're hitting right on it, is that we haven't making sure we haven't romanticized a person.
That's what I'm, yeah.
Romanticize it. So 57 to 47. So I'm 47 going on 48. How do I let him know? Hey, I think that you can be straightforward and say, hey, what are you doing this weekend? It don't have to be, I'm in love with you secretly. It's just like, hey, are you going to such and such event? I was going to be there. Da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that at 47.
So there is a way to approach. We can't hear you. Okay. Oh, we can't hear you.
Well, you guys helped me to get my thoughts together. I'm 34. So for me, I'm kind of along with my Shonda, like I made up, I'm separated from my husband for 2 years now, going toward divorce. And so I'm basically kind of not really trying to think about dating right now, but it will be soon because I know what I want. Mm-hmm. And of course I don't want to put basically I want to treat whoever my husband is going to be with respect. I don't want to date anybody until I'm divorced, just because I just want to do everything right. And I know maybe I can have friends or whatever, but until I'm divorced, like I'm not dating anybody. But I know for a fact that when I date, I'll be dating for marriage. I'm not going to be casually dating anybody. You know, I can be friends, but I like in my head, like I'm not trying to waste nobody's time, and I'm not trying to have my time wasted. So I feel like along that line, if there's somebody in a few months from now, when I get to that point that happens to appear at my church and they catch my attention, first of all, I'm gonna watch them. Like I ain't gonna say nothing. It might sound creepy, but I'm not gonna like, you know, and then like my Shonda said, okay, we're having this at the church. Are you gonna be there? Or, you know, hey, or just talk to them. Like, I don't know. Like how else you gonna really know? How can you see unless maybe it's somebody she knew?
I just think that's so key without having, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Without having context for the question, obviously it's a little tricky, but I think what's important in the question was without offending them, which is interesting as a woman. How do I let him know I'm interested without offending him? So that leads me to believe he ain't letting out no signs that him is interested. If him ain't letting out no signs that him is interested, and you interested in a fish that don't want to be caught, you might want to rethink fishing in this pond. I'm just trying to be serious. But the heart wants what it wants. The heart wants what it wants. So if you want to shoot your shot, as the young folks say, then I think the shot you ought to shoot is, hey, you gonna be at the thing? And then just have a conversation. If he ain't interested, my man just ain't interested. Keep pushing. It's a big old pond out here. Big old pond.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Well, Michelle, you said we have romanticized. Well, I'm gonna be honest. My first guy right now need a pickup truck and some power tools. Vroom vroom. Okay? Pickup truck and power tools. And were you gonna say something, Danielle? Because I read these other two. I promise y'all I'm not getting ready to read these. Y'all, I promise you.
Okay. Well, I'll
screenshot it. I might put it in our group message. I'm not reading them the last two.
Okay, then.
Okay.
If that was the same young lady who wrote that first question, I could imagine what the other two questions.
It's a full little sheet here.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Well, I think also along the lines is now that I know, you know, the things that happen to me. So I have a clear idea of pretty much what I don't want and what I want. So you have to look at that person, and let's say you do go ahead and talk and y'all do have lunch or meet up or whatever, and maybe he is interested. So then what? Like, now, like, I remember when I started ramping up my business, my pastor was like, you need to have more friends because you're not going to get traffic for your business. She was just trying to give me a point. She was like, just try to increase your friends on Facebook. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that because these men, they get in your inbox and they don't know how to leave you alone. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, I've just always been like, kind of like, ooh, but I did it. And I just learned how to block and ignore and stuff. But I'm not gonna lie, there have been a few people that, you know, I've spoken to and they're respectful, but friends, you know, just like literally, how's your day going? Or what are you interested in? Stuff like that. And I'm like, well, this could be practice, you know, to learn how to communicate. Because when I was married, I didn't talk to anybody like of the other sex other than my husband, unless we grew up together. So it was like, I have to learn, jump in there and learn how to communicate with the man, literally. So I'm like, well, I just learned how to just get comfortable, I guess. But in the same, when they start to go to that, well, hey, you know, can we talk on the phone sometimes? I'm like, no, because I know that's not what I want to do. So I think it's just like, just sticking to what you do and do not want to do. If I know in my head, like, I would never date this person, then just let them know, like, no. Or like kind of being honest about the whole situation, what you want, ask them what they want. And if their answer doesn't line up with where you see yourself being willing to offend them, like, what are you worried about offending somebody for? Because you have to ask these questions to know if you really like this person. How would they react if you approach them? That lets you know what kind of person they are anyway. Why are you getting offended?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's just about communication, I guess.
Yeah, and again, of course, I have no idea who or what, but we've been to the soup pot.
Mhm.
We have effectively addressed that. And I'm gonna have to figure out some new soup pot locations and maybe get some 2021 soup pot questions. And we'll keep going. Hey, we do have some things coming up. You'll probably be hearing more information about it. May, I don't even remember the day, 20th or the 23rd. There'll be flyers going around here shortly. We're going to be doing Soup for the Asset-Based Community Soul at Rose Hill with a couple of my partners. This will be with my business, the Palmetto Group. We'll be doing that there. And then June, we have a little bit of time. We're going to be doing a fashion show in the courtyard at Rose Hill. Baby, I'm a star with style, supporting trauma awareness, understand the reality, engage the resources, STARR. Baby, I'm a star with style, and Nicole Simpkins will be the stylist. And so she'll be coordinating the fashion show part. And I think there are probably a couple of other little things that we'll have going on. Again, just trying to get out, being in the community, making connections, and just hopefully just being a light and encouragement. Even though every word that comes out of our mouth is, we don't say trauma. But again, if you go to the site, you kind of see what the foundation, what it's all about. It is about helping us recognize how we're aware about things in our lives that have caused trauma. Because so many times what happens is we begin to adapt and adjust. Some of us have really good coping skills, and we don't even realize why we keep acting the way we do or doing certain things, the way we do. It just becomes comfortable. And we just want to be, again, a support and encouragement and say, hey, you get out there, you can blossom. You too can blossom, okay? So are there any other thoughts? Did I finish everything? Danielle, your website again? Blossoms.com. What is it? Blossoms.com?
It is www.blossomshealing.com.
Healing.com. Okay. My Shonda, I got a Tabata, but that's not a .com, is it? How can you also?
I got a Tabata is my social handle. I got a Tabata. So at I got a Tabata on Instagram, at I got a Tabata on Facebook, at I got a Tabata on YouTube. Those are the social handles for that.
Okay. All right. That's where you can find some of these young ladies. Be inspired by their wisdom and authenticity, and just their lives, their being. They inspire me. Danielle make me want to eat right and do right. My Shonda makes me want to exercise and be fit. But I'm a strong-willed person, so I just keep being fat.
We out here walking right now with a couple of my dance sisters. I was so proud of them.
Oh,
I was so proud of them for walking. I said, y'all, when y'all walking next? I'm gonna come be with y'all. They are in charge of me today.
Yep, I hug baby girl for me. I thought I saw her back there in the background.
Jennifer.
Yeah,
I
And
will hug her.
we had started, because I used to tell the group, to go, how are we gonna be warriors in the army of the Lord and we can't even get through a good praise service without huffing and puffing?
Can't even get through a good praise song. You huffing and puffing, about to pass out. You can't warm up.
But that's a part of, our bodies are temple, and really we are housed in these, but we have a responsibility to take care of these physical bodies. So yay. So thank you for that encouragement. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much again, Danielle, for just sharing your heart and for being a support and an encouragement. And we love you, ladies. Love you to life. Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Shalom, shalom.